Miller, go on then. I don't know really. As promised, before I move on to some art and look at character design, I'm going to briefly describe what I have so far in terms of character arcs and their meaning for the whole plot. So Miller, my protagonist, what's his problem? I mean, his kid is dead, but you have to give him a character flaw, or what Aristotle called the Hamartia. Miller has one view on masculinity, and this inflects how he treats his son, which leads to his death. The conflict in the first scene is that his wife sees their son as a boy, Miller sees him as a man. This leads to the mirrored line, let him go, from Miller to his wife in the first scene and from wife to Miller in one of the later scenes. By using this line, I blur considerations of a paternal love and paternal responsibility into ideas about grief and trauma. Both characters must in fact let go. The line also loops in his memory, reminding him that it was his idea to send his wife away with one team while he took his son through another route in the compound, dooming him. His wife also knows this but feels she cannot say anything later, as her husband is, after all, the one who is not dealing with it. This key problem will be part of their joint arc. They will have to air the truths behind their conflict. Their teenage daughter is on a worrying trajectory, mainly over issues she also has not voiced or feels she cannot. Her brother is dead, but deep down she feels envious as her father appears to have withdrawn his affection from her. She's jealous of a corpse, and this gives her a particular form of shame. She must learn to let go of this shame and to grieve on her own without complications of her father's feelings. The problem Miller has, which becomes clear in his conflict with a tech geek colleague, is he believes he can solve problems with his fists. The first traumatic scene is a major indicator to him that he can't, but this lesson is not enough. The techie he eventually befriends believes in science. Miller dismisses it. Only by admitting that he needs this scientific help can he move beyond the idea he has only his physical prowess to rely on. The sidekick is clearly a proxy for his deceased son, but with his own youthful narcissism. This ties into Miller's guilt over allowing his son his adult independence, and means he cannot treat this kid in the same way. Whereas he was foolhardy with his son, he will now be cautious, trying to teach this trainee the dangers of arrogance. Will the trainee learn this lesson? His boss is a manifestation of all the ambiguities surrounding chain of command and responsibility, mirroring that which Miller had for his son. His boss wants him to complete his treatment for PTSD, but only in order to tick boxes and return to the fold. He also knows Faroon's secrets. When Faroon returns, his boss is not sure if his personal feelings will interfere with his professionalism. He must learn that his part in all of this is not innocent and has responsibility for Miller's pain. He and other senior figures led Faroon on his path, which in turn destined Miller to his pain. For the psychiatrist, I've mentioned I have a real-world model for this guy in Jonathan Shea, the author of Achilles in Vietnam and an expert in moral injury. He tells Miller the mind has strange ways of protecting itself. As a professional, he sees Miller as avoidant. He won't face his pain. It's his job to ensure Miller does that at the right pace. He has an almost paternal responsibility for Miller. The psychiatrist must learn that for trauma completion, as they call it, Miller must in fact enact his son's death again with a different emotional outcome. Finally, Faroon is not Faroon. When Miller finds out, he will be enormously angry that the military are part of this whole thing. His arc as a narrative villain is that he's been on a similar path to Miller, but has not learned to change. Miller must learn to change. This is the difference between them and the fact that both are reliving their trauma, but Faroon is the one who is purposefully enacting his trauma on others. Unfortunately, it's true that both the protagonist and antagonist are hurting other people as a result of trauma. For this to end, Miller must accept and take on Faroon's pain.